At what point did you decide it would be like an anthology series with, Ben, Marcus, and Tomas as connective tissue?
It was in the original. I first pitched this to Fox maybe 4 years ago at this point, and that was always the first thing I said was that you can't do 7 seasons of one possession story. By the end, you would just, who cares? You would be rooting for that person. You would be rooting for demon. Casey Rance to die just so you don't have to go through another season. So we always knew but the flip side of that is that you can't do a Monster of the Week show with Exorcist. You could never do 10 episodes with 10 cases of possession because it would become wearying in the exact same way. So the compromise to me was always each season is a movie, each season is a 10-hour movie, and it's going to follow one case of possession from beginning to end, but that Marcus and Tomas are always going to be your emotional connective tissue. Their story is always going to carry forward, because the idea of doing a fresh reboot and bringing in 2 brand new priests every year also didn't hold any interest to me, because I like long-form storytelling. It's an itch you never get to scratch when you're working in the feature world, and you know that after 90 pages you're never going to get to play with these characters again. It's so much fun to be able to, this season in particular, watch Marcus and Tomas grow as characters and go to places and have experiences that we couldn't necessarily do last year. It's been really gratifying.
Yeah. When you're looking for projects to work on, it seems to me like you might think like, oh, let's adapt the most iconic horror movie of all time to television. That seems like a walk in the park. Was it? I mean, I imagine it must have been daunting at some point to figure out how to make that transition.
When they first pitched it to me, my agent called. He said, "Are you interested in this?" I'm like, "No." And you should call them back and tell them they shouldn't do it either, because at the time the idea was, let's just remake the movie as a 10-hour miniseries, and I thought that was a disastrous idea because you're never going to do that story better. You're only going to do it longer.
Right.
And I hung up the phone and I started thinking, I'm like, I hope they never make Exorcist into a show. But if they did, they should do this and they should do it. I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I called them up. I was like, just get me in the room with the producers and let me kind of see if they would be open to doing a different version, because I think there is a version that could work. And it was actually the version that I went in and pitched is actually very, very similar to the first season that wound up on the air, because it was the only version that made sense to me.
Right.
Yeah.
How hard was it picking these characters? I mean, the actors, because they're so great.
It was super fun. It was really fun, and it was. It sort of came. We were discussing that. I grew up in the 70s and 80s where, they always talked about the melting pot in America, and that's what made America strong. That was where we got our strength. And so creating this foster families, we just wanted this normal family of misfits, all different types of person and with their own problems, and putting them together. And that's why the family is strong, is because they're so different. And that was so that was the joy of it. And then, day one, as I was saying, we put John Cho's name on the board. We started calling the character John Cho. we didn't have any other name for like 3 weeks, so thank God he said yes.
He's so good in this. I was just wondering if characters will carry over from season to season, like they might pick up John and take him into season 3.
We're working on the last 2 episodes now, and there's discussion of what will carry over to next season. I mean, they're all going to be dead. Spoiler, but their bodies might carry on to the next.
That works.
I feel like the death knell for a lot of serialized television is the 22 or 26 episode order.
Oh, it's impossible.
Was it important then to fight for shorter seasons to tell a better story?
Yeah, even last year there was a lot of speculation online of like, oh, they didn't get a back order. That means the show's getting canceled. And I'm like, no, they came to me and asked, will you do a back order? And I said no, because we are telling a movie. We know the end of the movie. We know this story is going to end in episode 10. And so the idea of vamping for another 6 hours or trying to push those goalposts back and just drag out this possession storyline, I felt it would be a slap in the face to the fans. I think 10 to 13 is the sweet spot for any serialized story. Apart from a couple, X-Files lost a couple of great examples. I can't think of another great show that has more than 13 episodes a season. You can't go past that without burning yourself out or without just making filler episodes and stalling for time.
But what was great about X-Files and Lost too is those were a lot of standalone.
Yeah.
The best episodes were the standalone that had just the thread running through it.
Sure.
Right.
And we can't do that on this show. We don't want to do that
Sure.
type of storytelling on this show either. We want to tell a novel,
Right.
but a 10-chapter novel.
Yeah.
And boy, that'd be exhausting to do 22 episodes.
Oh, my
man.
brain's out.
Yeah, I would be gone. Yes, sir.
It sounds like you also expanded the universe a little bit. Instead of just the priest, the story's a lot bigger too.
Yeah, well, and part of the appeal and attraction of a second season is you get to kind of correct your mistakes that you make along the way in season 1 too. Because season 1 I had no clue. I still have no clue what I'm doing. But season 1 was my first time doing anything in television, and so you roll the dice and. We never quite have enough time to plan out the entire arc of a season, especially in season 1. We kind of juggled a bunch of balls and we said, I sure hope we can kind of catch them all before they hit the ground. And some of those balls we caught and some we didn't. And so coming back into season 2, it was important to take aspects that we weren't necessarily totally happy with, like the conspiracy element, and see, can we do it better? Can we maybe take some of this storyline and give it to a character like Bennett, who was a little underserved in the first season because he didn't necessarily have as much fun, compelling stuff to do? Can we put this stuff on Bennett? Can we bring in this cool character of Mouse, Zuleika Robinson, and pair them together and really tell the conspiracy stuff through characters that we care about and have an investment in, versus just cutting away to a bunch of rich people
in a basement.
Sitting around the basement of a hotel concocting their evil plans. Can we make it more immediate and more personal?
It seems like that, though, is something you could go back to a couple of seasons down the line and investigate, right? Like that cult.
Or this season. Or in fact, or maybe perhaps this season. Episode 3, or the panel. We're actually going to show you. We're going to show you that at the beginning of the very first scene in episode 3. We deal with part of that, and later on we'll deal with more of it as well. Yeah,
Gonna
for
start
sure.
killing some of those evil bastards.
Yeah. Get a little vengeance.
So how far ahead have you got? Have you got a season 3? A plan for season 3? If gets the go ahead, or
We have ideas, yeah.
No go ahead yet.
Yes, no go ahead.
No go ahead. The mythical season 3, we call it.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to last year, where last year I knew, by the end of last season, I knew what I wanted to do with Marcus and Tomas. I didn't know what the new family story was. And we're kind of in that same position where we know where we are sending our characters who survive by the end of this season. We know where they're going to be aimed. We don't know who the new family is, who the new possession or the new case will be. But that's part of the fun of a writer's room, is you gather 10 socially anxious geniuses in a room, and you lock the doors and you shut the windows, and no one comes out until you have something amazing. And that's how this was all, the whole foster family story, and all those wonderful kids. That wasn't a plan that we had at the end of last season. That was something that came out of our writers' room and was really a sort of collaborative effort. And so we have ideas, but it's always better to remain flexible and trust your writers.
I was really stalking the social media accounts for the show to find news of the renewal, and I was reading all the comments, and there was tremendous, overwhelming support for it. The fans really loved this.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if that impacted Fox's
That
decision.
is 100%.
It is.
I think
That
100%.
matters.
That's why we're back.
Okay.
Absolutely. It was the fans.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that
It-
that kind
yeah.
of effort pays
Yeah.
off.
It was even right in May, right at the upfronts in mid-May. It was hanging on a razor's edge, and the fans pushed it over. Absolutely.
So good to
The
know.
Exorcist congregation, we
Yep.
love you.
We love you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jesus. Fans.
With only 2 episodes aired so far, are there any moments in the upcoming season that you guys are really looking forward to fans getting to experience?
Yes.
Honestly, I think the most gratifying thing about this season is that I think each episode has gotten better than the one before it, which isn't always the case in TV. It wasn't the case last year. We are watching the cuts of episode 4 and 5, and they're some of my favorite things we have ever done on the show.
Such a good 1-2 punch.
So it's we started this season hitting the ground running by design. We had these kind of 2 propulsive sort of standalone episodes dealing, we always talked about it as like our James Bond opening, where we're going to start this story at the end of a mission that's already in progress. We're going to see this Cindy storyline reach its conclusion, and then we're going to bring our two priests into the orbit of this foster family that we have been kind of slow burning their introduction in this possession story, and then we'll kind of collide them starting at end of episode 3, beginning of episode 4. And I think once those two stories get into and start intersecting in fun ways, it becomes so much richer, so much more compelling and gratifying, and feels more like the classic moments from our show last season. I think we tried to do something different by design, but I think starting this week with episode 3, it settles into a sort of more familiar rhythm. So if you liked last season, you're going to get a lot more of that.
Speaking of last season or any season, why do you think there's such interest in possession and exorcism?
You know what? I find it's dual. One, we're afraid of it, and we like to be afraid. But I think there's also a little bit of it's a weird thing to say. There's a little bit of hope. Like, if there really are demons in the world, then there means there's angels. You know, that if there's hell, then there's heaven. So if we can prove that there's demons, then we know there is something beyond. And I think we all want some of that hope. We want something.
It's actually more comforting to me to believe that the world is fucked up because it's being run by evil people who are trying to make it fucked up, as opposed to just border like baseline incompetence. I would almost rather have it be demons in charge than reality.
What was it like saying goodbye to Gina and Alan and the girls? Was that tough?
Oh, it's heartbreaking. No, I mean, look, I've said this before, but if Fox came to me tomorrow and they're like, "Do you want to write a spinoff called Nothing Bad Happens to the Rance Family?" I would jump at it in an instant, because Gina and Alan and Hannah and Brienne, they're tremendous actors and they're lovely people, and you do have to resist that urge to just bring them back just because you like them so much. Because I think it would be a disservice to be like, here's season 2 and it's the same damn family, and now the demon has just jumped into Alan Ruck and now we have to save him. In season 3 it'll be in Brienne. I think at a certain point you can't put this family through the ringer anymore. You have to send them off to their happy ending. But it was very sad saying goodbye to them, because they were joys to work with and just lovely people.
And we may not be saying goodbye to all of them.
That's true.
It's pretty easy to speculate of how Marcus and Tomas' story is going to affect or coincide with the family and collide. But it's a little harder to see how the larger story with Father Bennett and Mouse is going to meet up with them. What can you tell us?
I don't think we can. Honestly, I don't think we can. It's you'll get hints along the way.
Yeah, one of the things in episode 2 is this idea that evil has infiltrated the Catholic Church, that the conspiracy kind of has moles at every level of church and state at this point. And so the Office of Exorcism, which is sort of the last line of defense against this conspiracy, is being compromised from the inside out. So in season 1, Marcus and Tomas, you always kind of knew the church was there in the background. You knew that they still had the support. And you know, gradually we want to build towards that point where the church can no longer be trusted. You even saw at the end of episode 2, they're breaking their phones so they can't be tracked, because the Catholic Church is the largest, richest, single most powerful organization on planet Earth. They have more money and power and members than any army or nation put together, and that's a really formidable adversary if they decide you are a threat and they start coming after you. So we are slowly sort of arranging these puzzle pieces to cut our heroes off from any line of support and really put them on their own. It's the two of them against the world.
Have you heard from the church in any capacity?
No. I studied seminary and I wanted to be a priest, and so I'm Catholic, and so
you keep
I think it's interesting. I think we try to actually be a little bit, at least, respectful in some fashion.
I'm Catholic too, and I married an ex-seminary.
So you know.
I love the show.
Perfect. We love it.
Yeah.